How do you view and make sense of all of this on that spectrum?
Well, it's been a very much like a kind of a slow authoritarian creep by Trump. You know, they have been fairly selective. They have been moving in a slow but deliberate manner. It's sort of like the vampires in the movie Sinners, where, you know, mild spoilers for that movie, you know, for the first half of the film, you know, life is continuing as normal, even though the vampires are out there, they're hurting people. And then suddenly they're at your doorstep. And that's kind of the way authoritarians move. That's kind of the way authoritarians work. But it's important for everyone to be reminded that just because life appears to be normal, you know, we're all watching the World Series, we're watching Steelers Packers, you know, that doesn't mean that life actually is normal. We have masked agents abducting people off the streets. We have a DOJ that is going after the president's enemies. We have a ballroom being built at taxpayers' expense while there is a government shutdown and government workers cannot receive their paychecks. None of this is normal. And just because it appears to be normal doesn't mean it is.
John?
Well, you know, the thing about this is the description of what is going on. His lie in this case, and there's always a lie at the heart of whatever he's doing, his lie is that he gives a damn about policing the people and keeping them safe from violence. The number of people present, as this recovering federal prosecutor would observe, who are put there to take care of the crimes are not enough. 200 people, 100 people. Why are they there then?
Why are they there if it's not a real patrol? It's an important point. Go ahead. Yeah.
To provoke, and to get the film that they want. And instinctively or by design, the people in the various locations, which are Democrats, are wearing costumes and so forth, making ridiculous what they do. Right. And the officers who are untrained and unprofessional, even in their propaganda, even in their violence, don't know how to accomplish it. And so you see them actually provoking it. We see them throwing gas and stuff like that. And they think they're holding their constituency together. Why? Well,
and if I may, I'll let you finish. We can't get inside the mind of every single agent. There may be some there who, as you describe, and the judge is concerned, are being provocative with tear gas. There may be others who are assigned there for the day and are standing there going, why am I here? I mean, again, if you go down the line of each one, I will say your account is consistent with what the judge reprimanded at least their leader for.
Right. And, you know, when the people are on the ground and coming there with mercenary bounties to do what they're doing and wearing masks and acting like thugs, these are the people we should be arresting. And the powers for police that are necessary don't exist here, aside from the amendments to the Constitution that reserve to the states the police power, which is not compromised in those places if you look at the statistics over the years. So what do we have? We have a president who is having an army in his mind, though still small, to take care of us domestically for what? The election, control over the people. He's adventuring into South America and may, without a pledge from the Congress to authorize a war, go forward with a war there, because that's who he is. You know, cowards always do this kind of thing. You take a person who as a kid had a fist fight, they're going to be reserved about going into any war legitimately. This guy, who has no experience in any way, did what he could to avoid any service that might have put him at risk, is prepared to put anybody at risk because he thinks they're all losers. He tells them what he thinks they need to hear when he's prepared to punish them at every turn, and does. And as soon as they say anything truthful and disloyal, say there was a Kerry, as was true in the Vietnam War, who came forward now and said, you know what's really going on? This guy would be crushed like that, because we already have an authoritarian government and we don't have people fighting back. It's no accident that Kennedy's book, Profiles in Courage, is such a thin book, because there have been so few heroes in our American history. And now, when we're challenging some of our basic views, the equality of people before the law, equal justice based on color, based on origin, based on religion, all these differences, we can't tolerate differences because these people are feared to have anything except an all-white government, and anybody else be damned.
Well, so look, that's John's view. I'll mention, Che, as you know, we've had border czar Tom Homan on. We have a lot of different views. John is very clear in his. And if it may sound harsh, but I will put forward, as we do around here, Che, the evidence. John is making his argument. Here's some of the evidence. This is an independent judge, orders the daily meetings here with Border Patrol, with the local leader, Bovino, because of the way the Chicago immigration enforcement's going. And the judge basically admonishing the government here. Those kids were tear gassed on their way to celebrate Halloween in the school parking lot, says this federal judge, Judge Ellis. I can only imagine how terrified they were. These kids, their sense of safety shattered on Saturday, of course, this weekend. And it's going to take a long time for that to come back, if ever. And so, Che, that's some of what's happening. Whether or not every agent there intended that or was involved in that, the judge is saying the buck stops in this case with the local leader in charge, and they got to go daily, and they may have to wear now a body camera, the level of oversight the judge wants, because the concern is, one, this was a feature, not a bug, and two, the body camera, because they don't believe that these Trump officials are telling the truth in court.
Yeah, I mean, it's all very disturbing, and none of it should have ever been allowed to happen, but it is happening. And I would say that there is a significant and serious pushback in the country. I mean, we had a No Kings protest that brought out 7 million people to say in America, we don't have kings. When Donald Trump tried to do something that really did touch upon people's normal lives, like censoring and getting rid of Jimmy Kimmel, you saw the pushback, you saw the blowback, and it was really ferocious. Yeah, I mean, people were canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions, and Disney got the memo, Sinclair got the memo, and they corrected course. I mean, that is the kind of sustained effort that you need to see more of, and it would be more successful if we can do it on a more repeated, constant basis. One thing I'll also say that has worked is portraying yourself.
A heated discussion unfolded over growing concerns about what several analysts described as a slow authoritarian creep under former President Donald Trump. Commentators compare the situation to a scene from a vampire film, where life appears normal until the threat suddenly reaches people's doorsteps, arguing that the same gradual process of normalization is now at play in American politics. They warned that while citizens watch sports and go about daily routines, key signs of democratic erosion are being overlooked. Masked federal agents detaining civilians without clear authority, the Justice Department targeting political opponents, and extravagant government spending at a time of economic strain and government shutdowns. One analyst said this pattern reflected the methodical way authoritarian regimes establish control, not through sudden coups, but by slowly conditioning the public to accept escalating abuses of power. Just because life appears to be normal doesn't mean it is, he cautioned. The conversation then turned to the use of federal law enforcement, with another participant describing the deployment of small, untrained groups of officers as a form of provocation rather than legitimate policing. He argued that their presence seemed intended to provoke unrest for propaganda purposes rather than maintain order. Legal experts added that such federal actions raise constitutional concerns, noting that policing power traditionally belongs to the states. One speaker went further, accusing Trump of treating domestic law enforcement as a personal army and warning that his willingness to deploy force at home and abroad reflected a cowardly mindset, someone who avoided military service yet readily puts others at risk. He linked these actions to a broader pattern of punishing dissenters, suppressing truth-tellers, and fostering racial and religious intolerance. We already have an authoritarian government, he claimed, lamenting the scarcity of courage in public life and invoking John F. Kennedy's profiles and courage as a symbol of how few heroes stand up to power. As the discussion progressed, attention turned to recent legal developments. An independent federal judge in Chicago reportedly reprimanded local immigration enforcement officials after children were tear-gassed while attending a Halloween event in a school parking lot. The judge called the incident terrifying, said their sense of safety had been shattered, and ordered daily oversight meetings as well as body cameras for agents. This was cited as further evidence that elements of Trump's enforcement apparatus were operating outside the law and that courts were increasingly stepping in to reassert accountability. Another panelist noted, however, that there has been meaningful public resistance. Massive demonstrations such as the No Kings protest, which drew an estimated 7 million people, were cited as signs of democratic resilience. The backlash against Trump's attempts to silence late-night host Jimmy Kimmel and coordinated boycotts of companies seen as aligning with censorship were presented as examples of civic pushback. It shows people still have power when they act together, one guest remarked, suggesting that portraying Trump as the man, an establishment figure, while others assume the role of rebellious truth-tellers, may be an effective cultural strategy in resisting authoritarian trends. The discussion concluded with a reminder that institutional checks on presidential power remain in place. Legal analysts emphasize that the U.S. Constitution is still the foundation of government and that certain limits, such as the 22nd Amendment's two-term restriction on the presidency, are absolute. Even House Speaker Mike Johnson, a close Trump ally, publicly acknowledged that there is no path for Trump or any president to serve more than 2 terms. This statement was highlighted as a significant moment of clarity, proof that, despite political tensions and partisan loyalty, the law continues to define the boundaries of executive power. The exchange ultimately portrayed a divided America, one where fears of creeping authoritarianism coexist with visible acts of democratic resistance. Analysts agreed that the future depends not only on political institutions, but on citizens' willingness to recognize abnormal behavior for what it is, and to defend the rule of law before the line between democracy and dictatorship disappears entirely.